Welcome to this Vebiz session on maximising your export market development grant for this financial year, as well as how the EMDG can be useful in the post-COVID-19 world for exporters. But before we start, can you also a quick hello in the chat window to make sure that you can hear us? Okay, it looks like we've got no thumbs down. So looks like you can all hear us. Any problems you do have, please raise your hand, come through the chat window, and we'll sort that out straight away for you. Okay. We will provide some insights into how you can make sure you can maximise the benefits of your EMDG grant for the claims that are going to be lodged over the next 5 months. With the completely changed conditions for exporters, we'll also explore some different strategies for enabling your export marketing by using the EMDG program. The session will be presented by Directors Stuart Smith and Robert Jones, with the assistance of Sandra D'Souza, who will manage the technical aspects of the session and be able to acknowledge any questions you may ask through the chat icon. We hope this provides some immediate, actionable knowledge for the current EMDG claims and input for planning your export business strategy over the next couple of years. Handsome faces. Robert and I have been directors of business since 2006. It's a specialist grants assistance business with particular emphasis on the export market development grant, the R&D tax incentive, and business productivity grants. Robert has been an experienced chartered accountant and EMDG specialist consultant for many years, before which he was managing projects during the Y2K upgrades that were undertaken in preparation for the current millennium. Starting his own EMDG and export speciality business, he believed that exporters could be better supported with a more holistic approach to using the EMDG grant for expanding a business overseas. With accounting and computing degrees, Rob has a very methodical and systematic approach to exporting and managing the EMDG claims. Stuart has previously been with multinational chemical organisation and held a number of positions in computing across a variety of industries, as well as managing an outback sheep and cattle property. Working together in Vebiz is an extension of a friendship that began on the first day of high school many years ago and extended through our professional journey to be able to work with so many wonderful, innovative and dedicated businesses over the last 15 years. Thank you to them. We want you to spend your time with us today to be important for you for the benefit and the growth of your business. And finally, a shout out to our colleagues from the EMDG Consultants Association, who I'm sure fact-checking what we're saying, but I'm sure they'll also learn a lot from today's session as well. Moving through today's session, we'll cover 3 blocks of time. The immediate actions to understand for claims that will be lodged in the next 5 months, how to manage through the next 12 months when the COVID-19 impact will be just as severe as the last 4 months, and then developing strategies that can be a platform for export marketing over the longer term. We'll try and answer questions as they arise if Sandra can break our concentration, or we will provide responses in our Q&A session towards the end. This session will not provide all the answers. It may leave you with more questions than before, so please remember we are always available to take a call or organise a discussion to assist with your queries on exporting an EMDG. Changes for the 2019-20 financial year for the EMDG. No sales test. There will be no sales test for applicants lodging their 3rd or later grant. This is a significant one-off change for the 19-20 claims. Often applicants cannot claim after their first 2 grants or have their payments reduced because they have insufficient overseas sales to pass the sales test. This will not apply this year. First tranche guarantee of $100,000. Any EMDG grant payments up to $100,000 will be paid fully at the completion of the audit review by Austrade. The balance of the amount to be paid over this will be determined in late June 2021, as per usual, which is a percentage apportionment of the remaining amount. This is actually a big improvement over the last few years when the first tranche was sent to $40,000 and apportionment was as low as 24.6%. Since the election in May, and an additional 20 million was added for the 18-19, 19-20 and 2021 years. Because of COVID-19, another 49 million was added for the 18-19 claims to allow full payment of all last year's claims. This tells us that there is still a shortfall. So while this is welcome, it was a short-term fix and there remains a shortfall in funding to fully pay all claims. It should be kept in mind. Expect a lower number of claims. Austrade expect claims to fall by 30% for the next year of the 1920 claims, even without the sales test. Austrade have introduced a new lodgment system. This system uses the new MyGov ID for security. It is now an online system. There is some new information required. Vebiz will be sending a customer information form to all EMDG applicants, our clients, to make sure all the basic data is up to date. Something specifically for COVID-19. Allowance for claims amount not acquitted due to COVID-19. If you paid for a marketing activity and then could not get the service or the event fulfilled, and it was due to the COVID-19 restrictions, then these will be an eligible claim. This is likely for airfares and trade shows. However, this is only if you did not receive a refund or suffered an actual loss. And lastly, likely to remain less face-to-face audits. The effect of this is that phone audits will continue to a greater extent, which means that Robert and Stuart will be unable to attend at meetings and guide responses to Austrade questions as easily. We will attempt to get Austrade to make conference calls or Zoom meetings so that we can be involved in the audit review process directly and help guide you through the Austrade audit review process. This section is to maximise your payout from the 1920 financial expenditure when claims are going to be lodged in the next 5 months. Firstly, we'd like you to work with Vebiz to prepare early. Claims lodged in July, on average, take 4.5 weeks to receive the funds. Claims lodged in October average 8.5 weeks, and November average 12.2 weeks. So early lodgement is effective. Payouts within a month that helps with cash flow and can be recycled quicker into more export marketing. Have the proper contracts in place for work. This applies to your overseas representatives, consultants, private showrooms or exhibition spaces. These contracts will be looked at more closely, we believe, this year by Austrade. Now, since passports, marketing visit claims. Since passports are not stamped in Australia, it can be difficult in being exact with the dates of using your passport. By just using the itinerary, you can miss days away and therefore short count for the daily allowance. The Department of Home Affairs 1359 form allows you to request a copy of your exit and entry dates to Australia. The movement record is then a definitive proof of the days that you're claiming for the overseas visitor allowance. Have your trip reports prepared. Vebiz has templates to assist in this. You should try and have them filled out actually before you leave, as you know who, where and what you will be seeing most days. Try and have emails with your with all your prospective appointments if you can. Evidence of the work you're doing overseas. There is a need to supply evidence of work for overseas representatives, need written evidence to work. So emails with their clients, reports, pictures, presentations. And we suggest a monthly template report form which Vebiz has available. Overseas representative claims can get reduced due to not allowing for other work that they may have to do, such as training, chasing up deliveries, post-sales work and administration. Having evidence of their actual marketing work makes it harder to reduce the marketing time just because an Austrade auditor thinks that they do too many other things. Consultants need similar documentation to your overseas representatives, and showrooms and trade shows should have some photos of the event to display. Larger payout figure. Because the first tranche is higher, it makes it worthwhile to find every dollar spent on export marketing. Sometimes in the past, when claims were reduced by the apportionment, it meant too much work for a small return. Now the return is much better, so we encourage you to make sure we help you find every eligible dollar. So I'd like to offer some observations and suggestions on how we can use the EMDG into the future. I believe there are some of these trends that exporters need to be aware of and their effect that they will have and how you can use it with the EMDG. For instance, firstly, the sales test will return in the 2021 financial year. Without sufficient overseas sales, your claim could be limited. Don't forget sales in pursuit of just cutting costs in your business. As our recent newsletter article mentioned, the companies that will recover best from the downturn will be those that did not go into their shell, but continued to market carefully and stay focused on sales rather than just cutting cost. This can be seen from the outcome of company performances following the 2008-2009 GFC downturn. But marketing has changed. No more no more face-to-face, large networking events, trade shows, fashion shows, or big buyer briefings. So use the tools in the EMDG to help change the vectors you use for your marketing. We'd like you to use a recognised accounting system. Firstly, through good record keeping, we'll be required to manage your business and to claim for the EMDG. Because it's cloud-based, we recommend Xero accounting. With shared access to Xero, Vebiz can complete more than 90% of the work without intervention from you, especially if the documents are loaded into the system. So it is worthwhile to spend time allocating your overseas expenditure to specific accounts for overseas marketing. Ensure all your marketing material is of high quality. With online marketing being the priority, make sure it is of high quality. When traveling, you would always look your best. The computer screen now carries your brand, so make it look good. Digital marketing material can be expensive to produce. However, remember it is eligible expenditure. So include your production costs, including models, location costs, filming, graphic artists, social media specialists, as well as all the other costs to get your material seen. If you use influencers, get their insights data and statistics for their overseas followers so you can claim at that rate rather than what might be a lower apportioned rate using other methods. Overseas representatives. Vebiz really believe that since travel will no longer be permitted for some time, it will be important to get a local person presence. You will need to have a representative on the ground in your major markets. Later, we will discuss having a full export market project management program, and we emphasise the benefits as overseas representatives because of their local knowledge and their ability to travel around. But make sure you have an approved contract in place. Let us help you with the contracts with the templates from Vebiz. Joint ventures and split shareholdings in overseas companies, while a good idea, can negate good overseas representative contracts set up. So check when arranging them. And influencers and experts to provide testimonials will be more prevalent. So maximise that claimable amount when you know what your overseas audience is, get their insights. Export Grants 2020. I'd like to look at a little bit more detail for the claims that you're about to be prepared. We want you to get them in early so the funds are back to you quicker, but we need to get the information correctly. So before you start your claim, ensure that we can prepare the EMDG claim this year. We need to have the information available. Please ensure that you have your accounts up to date. Where possible, give Vebiz shared limited access to Xero or your accounting system, or provide all relevant ledger detail as Excel files. Remember, sometimes accounting systems don't easily provide cash basis reports. Please ensure that only transactions that have been paid are included in your claimed expenses. The initial critical information that we need. There'll be a number of questions that Vebiz need to ask. Most will be on the customer information form that we'll be sending to each client. This is critical to make sure the business is eligible before you even look at the transactions and what you've been doing overseas. The business details need to be checked and updated. We'll discuss your business and sales transactions models with you to ensure they are valid for EMDG purposes. Where there are any export products made and where they may have been designed. Grants entry for this must be checked and updated. So export expenses minimums and company maximum revenue must be also considered. We need the financial statements to claim, but they can be your draft or accounting system statements. It is not necessary to wait until your accountant prepares your annual financial or tax statements. Specific category requirements. There are a number of categories in EMDG, and we'll look at these in a little bit more detail. In all categories, evidence of payment with the bank, credit card, or PayPal entry on the statement may be required. We can use your Xero bank information initially, and you need to let us know if you've been reimbursed for any expenditure that's been claimed. But by the time we get to the Austrade audit review, the actual bank statements are most likely going to be requested from Austrade this year. Rather than repeat for each category as we look at them in more detail shortly, remember that all claimed expenses must have invoices, must have payment records, and be supported by relevant substantive documents like reports and email trails. So for all categories, as we said, claimed expenses must have all the evidence to support them. And all the expenses must be in the P&L for the financial year. that means that we need to be able to see all the transactions in the ledger accounts. If a payment has been made from a personal account and you own the company, it still must have a journal showing the expenses as a loan to the company. The expenses should be supported by other information that they were established for the export and promotional purposes, and you must have adequate supporting detail like reports, emails, photos, etc. Where expenses relate to domestic marketing and international marketing, such as attending a trade show in one of our own capital cities, we need to apportion on a reasonable basis, and where expenses are split between marketing and other activities, they must also be considered for apportionment. We'll run through these fairly quickly. If you have more questions about any particular category, then we can look at those in detail later. Overseas representatives, the information needed is an up-to-date marketing agreement that checks the dates and the agreed values that are invoiced and the paid amounts. The marketing agreement is something that should be checked with Vebiz as soon as possible. Ensure that all your overseas representative invoices and payments are for export marketing, and that if you are using offset accounts, they are up to date. If offsets are used, make sure there is a separate signed approval between the parties. Make sure that all your expenses claimed by your overseas representative have been paid by them, and marketing expenses could include your salary of staffs, rent of office, travel. Make certain there is a good email trail of marketing activities and regular marketing reports from your overseas representative. Export marketing consultants have up-to-date specifications agreement, particularly if they're project-based, and check the dates and the agreed values against the invoiced and paid amounts. Ensure all your marketing consultant invoices and payments are for export marketing fees and expenses, so that we can't be told that they were being used for something just for a domestic purpose. Make sure all your expenses are claimed by the consultants have been paid for them by the marketing expenses. Make sure there's a good email trail of their activities and a regular report or a end of project report from that consultant. Marketing trips. Airline invoices and itineraries are necessary. We have to split between any non-marketing activities like post-sales, purchasing, and any personal time. So ensure that all your payments have been made and appear on the credit card, bank statement. If you paid on your personal account, your personal credit card, make sure there is a journal to get it into the business accounts. You must have proof of travel. Best thing to do now is to organise Department of Home Affairs 1359 movement record for each person who travelled. This shows all the departures and arrivals back to Australia. We can supply the form to you, or you can get it off the DHA website. Alternatively, keeping all your boarding passes, which becomes more and more difficult these days, can be used as an alternative. Ensure you have good trip reports to show the marketing activities on each day away. Trade fairs and events. For trade fairs, where the events were in Australia, there must be some information attendance to allow apportionment for the export and domestic components. Now, we'll probably need to ask the organisers for these. Evidence of a trade show, even overseas, is still needed. So photos of booths, brochures from the organisers, email trails and customer meeting information. It's not sufficient just to show the invoice that you've paid. Austrade need to know that you actually attended any of these events. As we said earlier, these are obviously going to fall away for the last few months and over the next 12 months. Advertising and promotional material. This will obviously become more important to you because of the lack of personal face-to-face time that you can spend. Digital marketing, which might be your website, Facebook, Google, Instagram, TikTok, blogs, other influencers, and where it can be seen by anyone in Australia or overseas, needs to have the costs apportioned, usually on a basis of where the hits on the website come from or the source of your followers on social media. You'll need to have installed Google Analytics or similar metric tracking device or services. Include all the production costs, creative costs, delivery costs for any marketing material, including online marketing. And then evidence of the nature of the expenses and needed, copies of the advertisements, brochures, other promotional material, email trails. This will become more and more important the less you can get to see your customers. Overseas buyers, just as we can't go overseas, they can't come here anymore. However, if you've had some or they do come in, remember that you can only claim what you spent in the buyer. It's back to the old days of splitting a restaurant bill between you and the guest, so you can only claim just the right amount. Ensure you have an overseas buyer report that covers all the activities that they did when they came out here. Finally, patents, trademarks, and insurance. This is only for overseas intellectual property protection. Invoices for fees both from your Australian lawyer and any cost from overseas lawyers can be included. Invoices for insurance for IP protection or defence. It won't cover the litigation costs, but it will cover the cost of the insurance should you have to litigate your IP overseas. It's also important to remember when taking out IP protection that for the EMDG claims, you need to have done some other marketing in the same time period, such as overseas visits, having overseas representatives, or a promotional campaign of some sort. So this covers the current claim essentials and my brief view of the trends for the future. I'd like to hand over to Robert, who will give some greater insight in how to export marketing will actually change because of the restrictions of COVID-19 in the immediate future of the 2021 year and a longer term model for your export marketing. Thank you.
Now we will consider what happens in the coming year and potentially beyond. Moving on to the future. We don't know what the coming years bring nor what EMDG will look like. 2020 EMDG claim, we do know that overseas travel in the coming year will be unlikely, but we'll see after the end of 2020. Most international trade shows happen in the northern summer, and most of our clients make their trade show visits after Christmas. There'll be little happening between now and then anyway. Similarly, there may be no activity for bringing out overseas buyers in this coming year. What happens with the other marketing expense categories? What can we do to address the challenges? We'll just go through some of the areas of export marketing activity. You may have other ideas as to what we do now. The changes brought about by the new travel restricted and interactions limited environment mean that we should look at changing tactics. From a business viewpoint, you may have already made significant changes. Some of the things you might consider are making sure that all sales transactions are online and secure, considering how you deliver your products or services. You may need to adjust the distribution activity due to constraints on supply or access to logistics. You may need to reorganise supply contracts to adjust for altered demand flows. From a management viewpoint, you should ensure that all transaction activity is recorded in the accounts and done electronically. Wherever possible, linked to business connections, bank records, purchase orders, sales and delivery. Include all your EMDG transactions electronically, like overseas representatives, marketing consultants, travel, trade fairs and advertising, to ensure they are complete, accurate and timely. A new business approach may actually give your business an advantage. What does the next year bring for some of the key EMDG expense categories? Firstly, with overseas representatives, OSRs might be making many more online meetings in their territories instead of travelling and visiting customers. They may be more involved in their territory with more email campaigns and direct marketing as they move around less. This may be a good thing. OSRs should use and be part of a larger business-wide online campaign a strategy with webinars, online Zoom meetings, etc. The development of the online environment means Australian exporters can have many more and better meetings on a regular basis with their overseas reps. Where overseas reps have developed local territory online campaigns, they should always include your business. All reports and OSR activity may become much more manageable. Marketing consultants, like OSRs, can be much better connected. Their activities may be constrained. but other opportunities for their operation will develop. Communications will be more online. There will be more use of email, direct marketing campaigns, phone calls, and Zoom-type meetings. Marketing consultants can be engaged by Australian exporters for specific project work, like holding webinars and developing online digital campaigns. Exporters can be more informed with more regular updates from consultants. Export marketing projects will be more accessible for the Australian exporter to be involved. Sorry, but there may be little, if any, travel in the coming EMDG grant period. That might save some money. However, it also presents the challenge of how does my business stay in touch with or make direct contact with the customer base? It is always a good idea to know what is happening in the overseas markets from first-hand experience. It is also great for customers to meet principles of the export business. A new approach to marketing visits will be developed. Each company will make their own strategy on this. We can see that there could be development of the virtual overseas marketing visit. This would be a new planned and online marketing visit or virtual tour of overseas markets. A plan of which key customers to include and when to visit them, provides a schedule of activities like webinars, Zoom meetings, email campaigns. Where there is an overseas representative making visits to customers, they can bring you along on the laptop or iPad. You can now conduct webinars in overseas markets with the right timeframes for customers. Online opportunities also exist for bringing customers to your place instead of needing to travel. But please get professional marketing help. As for travel, we don't see a lot of trade shows in the coming EMDG grant year. If there are important trade shows in key territories, you could use your existing OSRs or export marketing consultants. Or you might think of hiring some new ones. If you do have someone in attendance showing, you should also be in attendance by video communications. You can hold specific trade show type events and webinars at those trade shows. Some trade show organisers are moving to virtual events. It is now easier to attend. Again, get some professional help in organising your trade shows. Like all other export marketing activities, your advertising and promotion strategies will be impacted by the new environment for the coming EMDG grant year. For advertising and promotional material, you could be developing online material and using online interaction. A sophisticated media strategy is now more accessible and more relevant. A coordinated program, we use the web, email, online presentations, online brochure delivery, social media, etc., to build a stronger online presence and brand. Necessity can deliver opportunity in advertising, promotion, and brand awareness. A completely new export marketing program can be developed. We believe that successful export businesses must have good marketing. As Peter Drucker said in 1975, positive marketing is the most important multiplier of any development effort. It can integrate the economy to a point where its assets and resources can be fully utilised. It simply mobilises economic energy and facilitates rapid development. This can be accomplished by generating a marketing multiplier by activating further those most critical contributors to the economy. Export marketing project management will ensure effective and efficient export marketing. It can help to maximise the outcomes. The objectives is to create new markets or grow existing markets. There are some core activities to apply to your markets, your marketing business, to engage with customers or clients. Other activities support the core activities. Preparing export budgets includes goal setting and spending plans. Project management means monitoring, measuring, and managing the export plan. The basic questions. Well, it's great to go back to the basics on marketing and exports by considering the simple questions here. We always assume that our clients know this in detail, but we need to remind ourselves occasionally. The core steps in export project management identify the market project problems and keep our eyes on the results or outcomes. A defined marketing project will help define primary marketing activities, reporting and management. After all, it all costs money. For EMDG success, a well-organised strategy makes the most of the subsidy. But in the end, it's all about your business. Vebiz success is founded on the success of our clients. To be ready for export, you have already built a business that already has some great value. There is appeal of your products and services. International opportunity exists to reach a larger, more valuable market. You are organised and determined. Your business is ready to engage. Vebiz likes happy clients. Clients tend to be happy when they succeed. We have helped and worked with many clients. A few of the notable brands are shown here. We would like many more success stories. Some people have been supportive as we support them. As we have said, Vebiz success comes from our clients' success. Our charging philosophy is based on success in accessing the grants. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. We don't charge for that. Please follow through on this presentation by booking a meeting through our calendar link. You'll see the calendar and availability. I have expanded available time by reorganising some other business administration. These are the other ways to be in touch with us. Please visit the website, call us, check out the export assessment tool on the website, send us an email. We'll be following up too, but please get in touch. Thank you for staying on the webinar. We would like to have some questions from you. I'll pass over to Stuart and Sandra.
All right. Questions are probably coming in thick and fast now, but if I can look at a couple that have come in earlier. Question was asked about refunds. We talked about if an event is cancelled and you can't recover the funds that you've paid because of COVID, Austrade will consider these eligible expenditure. What is not clear to us at the moment, and we will find this out and get back to you, is where you've been offered a credit, but you may not be able to take up the credit. So it still exists in your book as an asset, in your books as an asset, and hasn't been crystallised as a loss. So that's something that we will clarify. We will clarify with Austrade, particularly for the way that the ACCC is looking at the way airlines have to work with their customers. We've had one of our past clients, existing clients, has mentioned that they, while being an exporter themselves, also offer representation overseas, and with the big commentary that we believe is going to be required overseas and the use of overseas representatives, we'll put his name out as a follow-up to this. So thank you, Herman, for that comment. He also asked the minimum payment of 15,000. Yes, it's true that Austrade, you have to have spent the money and get reimbursed, which means that you've got the funds to do it. Now, we can't get around that problem that the money has to be spent. So it either comes from your cash flow, your working capital, or you borrow it. And at this stage, if you have export finance questions or export finance funding issues, please get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with the right people at EFIC, or what is known now as just the Export Finance Corporation. Some very good contacts there that can help you with export finance funding. So if we look through some of these questions that we're getting, as I said, coming in thick and fast, any word on what the 2021 grant might go to? Tranche payments linked to overseas sales for payments, and whether 1920 will count as a year towards your total amount of claims that you can do. great point there about whether this year's claims should actually count towards your grant requirements. I raised that many weeks ago with Austrade. I've still not received an answer. The answer I received was it has to fit in with the legislation, and some things are easy for them to change. Some things need a change in the Act of Parliament. But that's something that myself and our association will be pursuing. As to what it will be for 2020 for the expenditure for your claims in another 12 months, no, not at this stage. Other than I think the government will have to be finding a lot of stimulus for a lot of people, and exporters are really going to drive our GDP. So we would expect there to be continued support for Austrade. There is currently a review going on again. COVID has prevented that being reported. That was supposed to be reported back in March, but there's been no indication of when they're going to report. Another question about an extension of the 8 years about the application limit. At this stage, there hasn't been any questions, any extensions or information provided on that. However, can an export company have other options available to claim marketing and development via the grant? That's a very interesting question, probably something that we can't explore in detail. There are ways that you can look at what your business does and whether you can use the export grant to further it. I would also suggest and have a talk to Vebiz, have a talk to us about it. There are other business productivity grants. So it may well not be that you get the EMDG, but there may be other grants that you can get support through. A question which we've answered privately. There are 2 countries which are not eligible for export marketing. I'll let you work out which one is the real threat to Australia, and that would be New Zealand and North Korea. Both are not eligible for the export market development grant. I've answered that one. Move on. So any further questions, please send them through. We thank you for your time today. We know it's valuable. We know that you are probably getting square eyes from the number of webinars and time spent on the screen. So with the restrictions getting less, more than happy to come out and see you or spend time discussing with you. Herman has one more question here, and I'll read this one out for you. Australia has to get serious, meaning our government needs to support exporters, as Australia is not just big enough. We need to be collectively work together to push this locally, and federal government officials in any change you can get. I can only support that, and what I can do is ask you and recommend to you that you put this in writing to your local federal member and put it to us. We will forward that on, and as we've seen, social media, everything works by the volume and the loudest voice. As per the television program, the loudest voice. And exporters need to be the loudest voice if they want to get support. So talk to us about, there are mechanisms even through our Export Market Consultants Association who do have contact with the Minister, and other associations. I'm sure you belong to associations that often have better contact than you as individuals. So you can put that to your local Chamber of Commerce or your particular industry association. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you over the next few months as we finish the EMDG. And thank you to Sandra for the technical advice here, and we hope this went smoothly at your end as well. Thank you very much.